Hey there, folks. Thanks so much for joining me here on Wave Now. I'm Myra Ansari. Hope you're having a great Friday so far. So, we are going live to a press conference that's just getting started. Several leaders are coming together, the Environmental Protection Agency Deputy Administrator, and also Representative Andy Barr, Representative Mark Messmer, and Kentucky AG Russell Coleman, also Kentucky House Majority Whip Jason Nemes, all coming together to talk about major action that they say is going to support affordable, dependable energy for American families and restore American energy dominance. So let's jump in and listen to this presser.
Coal keeps the lights on, provides good, high-paying jobs, delivers affordable and dependable energy to Americans, and enhances our national security through American energy dominance. To help drive this decisive action, Administrator Lee Zeldin launched the Powering the Great American Comeback Initiative last February to recommit EPA to achieving our core mission and to energize the greatness of the entire American economy, to cut red tape, to follow the law, to adhere to gold standard science, and to build back America's coal industry. These commitments are in stark contrast to the last administration's EPA's attempts to hobble coal mining and coal-fired electric generation, and their concerted effort of picking winners and losers in the energy sector. This was the reality of applying heavy-handed regulations that led to higher cost energy, a less reliable grid, and increased reliance on foreign adversaries to meet our nation's energy needs. So today, I'm proud to announce that Administrator Zeldin and the Trump EPA have taken another massive step towards energy dominance by repealing once and for all the Biden EPA's 2024 amendments to the mercury and air toxic standards for power plants. In 2012, EPA issued the original MATS rule to address hazardous air pollutants, including mercury, arsenic, lead, chromium, nickel, and cadmium, as well as hydrogen chloride from coal and oil-fired power plants. We have seen incredible emissions reductions in the intervening years. The numbers really do speak for themselves. In 2021, mercury emissions from coal-fired EGUs were 90% lower than 2012 levels. Since 2010, acid gas HAP emissions have been reduced by over 96%. And emissions of non-mercury metals like nickel, arsenic, and lead have been reduced by over 81%. Because of the strong compliance of the industry, these benefits will continue for generations to come. Every 8 years, as you know, the Clean Air Act requires EPA to review its air toxics rules. That review process is called the Risk and Technology Review, and it ensures that standards are updated to reflect advancements in technology and to address any remaining health risks. The Trump EPA completed this review in 2020 and concluded, based on a transparent, rigorous, and robust assessment of all available data, science, and information, that no changes to the standards or requirements were needed to continue to provide human health protection and environmental protection to the American people. When the Biden administration decided to issue updates to this rule in 2024, they looked at the same data that EPA reviewed in 2020, and they reaffirmed that the 2012 standards were working and that additional changes were not needed to protect human health. You would think this would be the end of the story, but it was not. Instead, based on legal contortions and a limited and flawed data set, the Biden EPA found that there were new technologies that coal EGUs could install that would impose hundreds of millions of dollars of additional costs to install unworkable controls and continuously monitor emissions. And despite the massive costs that rule imposed, EPA had the gumption to say, and I quote, that the rule would not have significant effects on the industry. The 2024 requirements were on top of requirements that were already fully installed, fully effective, and fully protective. They concluded that the residual risk review was distinct from the technology review under the Clean Air Act, and that EPA's conclusions of no residual risk that warranted new requirements did not inform its technology review and whether additional controls were necessary or justified the sky-high costs. The 2024 amendments also took away implementation flexibility that would have impacted more than 1,000 coal-fired units, including at this facility. A facility that has been in operation for more than 50 years, has pioneered state-of-the-art air quality controls for decades, and provides good-paying jobs for so many local residents, and is currently working around the clock to meet ever-increasing demand for baseload power. And even by the Biden EPA's own calculations, the 2024 rule's dramatic costs were more than double its projected benefits, and more than a third of these benefits were from exaggerated so-called climate benefits. What's more, mercury emissions from the sector have dropped so far, even without the 2024 rule, that the amount of mercury reductions projected for the Biden rule were in fact so small that EPA couldn't even calculate or monetize the benefits from those reductions. And the health benefits calculated by the Biden EPA weren't the result of controlling air toxics at the center of the MATS rule, but rather were from co-benefits. EPA's action today rights the wrongs of the last administration's rule and will return the industry to the highly effective original MATS standards that helped pave the way for American energy dominance. The repeal of the 2024 MATS amendments will relieve all facilities of the unnecessary revised filterable particulate matter emission standards for coal-fired power plants, the tighter mercury standard for lignite-fired power plants, and the requirement for all power plants to use PM continuous emissions monitoring systems, or CEMS. The final rule fully reverts required compliance back to the original standards that were reaffirmed in 2020 and have driven the sharp reductions that I've just described. Thanks to this action and President Trump's leadership, Americans will benefit from $670 million in cost savings between 2028 and 2037. That's $78 million annually, savings that, along with the administration's other finalized and proposed actions affecting electric generation, will make electricity more affordable and help bring down the cost of living for American families. We are proud to return to a common-sense regulatory approach that provides certainty for American businesses to spark new investment and job creation across the country. Before I conclude, let me highlight an additional announcement that we're proud to make today to help the electric power generating sector. Today, we're issuing clarifying guidance on our regional HAZE state implementation plans, ensuring that all states consider grid reliability when developing their regional HAZE plans. For too long, the Clean Air Act's regional HAZE program has been weaponized to force the shutdown of coal-fired power plants and to shift electric generation. The program requires the consideration of energy impacts, but effects on grid reliability had not been taken into account. The Trump EPA will no longer support the misuse of this program. We will proudly uphold the law and return the program to its intended use, which is improving visibility in national parks and wildlife areas. We've accomplished this by approving regional HAZE SIPs for states like West Virginia that had their SIPs rejected in the last administration, and by disapproving SIPs in Colorado and recently proposing to disapprove Hawaii's regional HAZE SIP for forcing coal-fired power plant retirements and failing to account for effects on grid reliability. Specifically, our new guidance will assist states with preparing any remaining second planning period regional HAZE SIPs that are due to be submitted to EPA, as well as any future revisions to those SIPs. This update clarifies that the agency encourages states to consider potential impacts on grid reliability when determining the emission reduction measures that are necessary to make reasonable progress. So let me wrap up simply by saying that for years, both the Obama and Biden administrations tried to erect barriers that could thwart American energy. Those days are over. EPA and President Trump are tearing down those barriers. America will continue to use coal for power generation, to unlock critical minerals, and to export to our allies. And with that, thank you very much for being part of this momentous event. It's my honor now to turn the podium over to Michelle Bloodworth.
Well, thank you. So honored to be here today. I'm Michelle Bloodworth, and I'm the president and CEO of America's Power. And on behalf of America's Power, I want to thank President Trump, Administrator Zeldin, and the entire EPA team, including Deputy Administrator Fatui and also Aaron Zavo, Assistant Administrator of EPA's Air Office, for all the work they are doing to certainly restore a balanced and responsible approach toward environmental regulation. America's Power is the only national trade association who is solely focused on coal electricity and its supply chain. We advocate at both a state and a federal level. For many years, we have felt that policymakers weren't willing to listen to our concerns about a looming reliability crisis. We are thankful to finally have an administration that not only recognizes the importance of this issue, but is taking firm steps to solve that problem and to address it. For too long, the entire coal supply chain has been the target of bad and onerous environmental regulations that were really designed to shut down coal-fired power plants at the expense of electric reliability, especially as we're seeing a surge in electricity demand. Repealing the 2024 MATS rule and today's actions are an important step toward maintaining a reliable and affordable supply of electricity and ensuring that coal-based generation can continue supporting the nation's economy and the electric grid. In combination with other EPA rules, the 2024 MATS rule would have helped accelerate coal plant retirements, ignoring the critical role these facilities play in providing baseload dependable power. Utilities have invested more than $2.5 billion with the original 2012 MATS rule, and the 2024 rule update would have required roughly $1 billion in additional costs that ultimately would be borne by ratepayers, and we are already seeing rising electricity prices. More than 1/3 of the coal fleet is scheduled to retire over the next 5 years. And according to the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, they are warning that over half the country of the United States of America is at risk of blackouts during that same time frame. So we all know we need to add generation, but we can't do that if we continue to subtract. Repealing regulations like the 2024 MATS rule helps prevent premature retirements. It strengthens grid reliability at a critical moment. The impressive performance of the nation's coal fleet and many of the coal plants here in the state of Kentucky was really impressive during Winter Storm Fern in keeping homes and businesses, certainly on power and residential consumers, warm. Really demonstrates the need for coal, as we've seen in all of the extreme winter events. We look forward to continuing to work with President Trump and the EPA on reforming the many overly stringent rules that threaten grid reliability, including the carbon rule. Working together, we can take a common sense approach to regulation that recognizes the continued importance of coal-based electricity in ensuring that the electric grid remains reliable, but it also remains affordable. Again, thank you, Deputy Administrator Fatui and the entire EPA team for all of your work and efforts. It is certainly making a difference for this country. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sam McCown. I'm the president of the Kentucky Coal Association. On behalf of the Kentucky Coal Association, I want to thank the EPA, Deputy Administrator Fatui, for coming to the Commonwealth and for making this important announcement here at Mill Creek. Holding this announcement at a coal-fired power plant sends a clear message about the importance of reliability and affordability, both to our energy system and to President Trump and his administration. This moment matters, both for Kentucky and for our nation, because energy is essential to everything we do, from powering homes and hospitals to supporting manufacturing, agriculture, and economic growth. For over a century, Kentucky's coal miners have powered our state and nation. And despite years of punitive federal policies, our industry has persevered and continued to deliver that affordable and reliable energy. Today's announcement is the latest addition to a growing list of actions by this administration to restore common sense, as Deputy Administrator Fatui mentioned, to restore common sense to energy policy in our nation. The policy, like the one being reversed today, imposed real costs and regulatory strain on baseload power plants, increasing both pressure on energy prices and risk of blackouts, as Michelle mentioned. For Kentucky, this is about keeping the lights on, keeping costs manageable for families, and supporting the communities that depend on a strong energy sector. We appreciate the EPA's engagement here in Kentucky. and look forward to continuing to work together to ensure America's energy is reliable, affordable, and secure. And now I'll ask the Attorney General to make a few comments.
Thank you, Deputy Administrator, and your team for choosing Kentucky to make this announcement. I feel like, though, as a Commonwealth, we missed our applause line a moment ago. So why don't we revisit that announcement just a moment ago and honor this incredible development for us here in the Commonwealth. Now we're finally putting to bed the dangerous, nonsensical green agenda of the Biden administration. Under the old rule, Kentucky was under regulatory assault. Our power plants, as you've heard, would have faced massive costs and even closures. You know, added up at the end of the day, for a duty that I have to push back on, would have added up to a lack of affordability and ultimately a lack of reliability for the families of this Commonwealth. Repealing this rule and the remainder of the green agenda is a victory for Kentucky families. It keeps your utility rates low and affordable. It keeps the power grid reliable, and it ensures that this Commonwealth has the competitive advantage we must hold on to because of the benefits of the infrastructure we have built here, the competitive advantage. President Trump is releasing our energy dominance, and its future, I'm proud to say as Attorney General, will be powered right here by Kentucky Coal. You know, along with the conservative attorneys general across the country, we have led the fight against the Biden administration's assault on fossil fuels. During the previous administration, we spent so much time with the EPA, with the United States government on the other side of the V. I literally carried a spreadsheet to keep track of the matters in which we were adverse to our own government, adverse to the United States. There has been a significant pivot since President Trump's election. Finally, we have partners, not on the other side of the V, but partners on the other end of the phone with the EPA and this administration. At the end of the day, the beneficiaries will be the families of this Commonwealth. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for announcing this here, and thank you for this common sense approach. With that, I want to turn the program over to the Deputy Administrator to address any questions you may have.
One more speaker here. Appreciate it, Attorney General. No problem, no problem. But I'll add my thanks to you, Deputy Administrator Fatui. And we really appreciate the administration's pragmatic approach to environmental regulations. Today's announcement and the repeal of the 24 match rule is a prime example of that. And my responsibilities for the company, I'm in charge of engineering, construction, and generation. And we're at the end of that regulatory path where the regulations have to be complied with. And so we're proud here in Kentucky to operate one of the most reliable generating fleets in the country. And it's anchored by 10 existing coal-fired units. And as we said here, nearly 1,300 megawatts of coal-fired power is produced here at this station, and it's produced around the clock for our more than 1 million electric customers. And as an aside, the materials that are byproducts of our processes here are used to be key materials in housing, agriculture, and in infrastructure, so reuse of those materials. And dependable baseload generation led by our hard work that are hundreds of employees that are very highly skilled at this plant. It means that when our customers flip a switch, the lights come on. When they open their business, they have safe and reliable power. And for example, during the recent cold snap or winter storm Fern, 75% of our generation here in Kentucky came from our existing coal units. It's imperative that environmental regulation is achievable with proven technologies, adequate time to demonstrate results, and at a reasonable pace. Our coal units play a critical role in delivering safe, reliable, affordable power here in Kentucky, and those same attributes help attract new and growing businesses. Looking ahead, we're currently working with a pipeline of economic development activity that includes 9.3 gigawatts of possible new load, and we're planning accordingly. Our ability to maximize the value of existing coal resources within our fleet is imperative in achieving our obligation to provide reliable power for our customers at the lowest reasonable cost. And we look forward to continuing this dialogue with the EPA and our industry peers, and again, appreciate the EPA's pragmatic approach to regulation, balancing achievable standards while fostering economic growth and energy security here in Kentucky. Thank you. Turn it over for questions.
Right, happy to take a few questions.
Mr. Fatui, did you say that repealing this will lead to $78 million annually in savings?
That's right. Over the next 10 years, $78 million annually saved from repealing the 2024 MATS rule.
Is that enough money to be worth it from the potential environmental or health effects that could come with repealing this? Because for reference, Louisville's budget is $1.2 billion annually. So we're talking about 6.5% of Metro Louisville's budget spread across the whole country. So is that money really worth it?
So a couple of responses to that. First, the rule overall would save $760 million across the country, which is a real money that will result in savings on folks' electric bills. But also keep in mind, you mentioned environmental and human health impact. The last administration, when they promulgated this rule, said it was not necessary to protect human health because the prior standards were already reducing the risk to an acceptable degree such that there were no additional requirements that were needed. They nonetheless imposed these additional obligations, and through their own calculations, they said for every $2 that the regulation would impose, it would only bring back $1 in benefits, and those benefits were trumped up as well. But even under their math, you spend $1, you get 50 cents back. It never made sense. The math doesn't make sense. And imposing these kinds of obligations on our baseload power only drives us away from energy dominance, not towards it.
Deputy Administrator, how was the dollar figure specifically calculated?
Well, if you look at our very detailed regulatory impact analysis that will be released along with the rule, you'll see the details of how the dollar figure was calculated. It takes into account the cost that facilities would need to spend to comply, to add additional unnecessary technology to their facilities. It also takes into account the work that EPA's career economists did to model and forecast future growth in the sector and costs over the next 10 years.
Mr. Fatui, does this change in policy forestall any of the coal generation retirements that Ms. Ludwig mentioned, or does it reverse any of the coal generation retirements that have already taken place? Does it enable new coal-fired generation anywhere, and who and where is affected?
It's one critical element in the effort to support baseload power and support existing and support new coal-fired generation technology. The last administration took on an all-out effort using different regulatory approaches, not just at EPA, but at other agencies as well, to make it more difficult to produce power in this country. And we are taking a multi-pronged effort through rules that we have either finalized already or have proposed and are considering public comments on that will, if finalized, drive those benefits for increased reliability for the grid and for increased domestic production. So it's this rule that we're announcing today is one key element of an overall approach that this administration is taking to prioritize baseload power.
Mr. Fatui,
Yes.
we're at a power plant today that is in the process of retiring coal units in favor of natural gas combined cycle. I believe you're probably aware that there are a lot of studies that show that NGCC power has a more optimal levelized cost of electricity. So do you realize that and the financial decisions that LG&E has made to move more towards natural gas combined cycle?
Well, we were just on a tour of this facility, and it is amazing. I encourage you to take a tour if you haven't had the chance to do that yet. The precision, the cleanliness, the absolute high technology that's being used to run this facility is critical. The 10 coal-fired units across this platform are critical for powering this region. And our job at EPA is not to pick winners and losers, which is what the last administration did with their energy policy. Our job is to impose reasonable, achievable regulatory obligations that protect human health and the environment while allowing baseload power to grow and thrive.
So concerning the Mercury, this rolls things back to the 2012 standards. Is that how I understand it?
The mercury limits would be the same as what were promulgated in the Obama administration in 2012 and that were reviewed in 2020 under the required 8-year review period in the Clean Air Act, and determined that additional requirements were unnecessary. And as I mentioned earlier, the Biden administration also looked at that same data that EPA looked at in 2020, in 2024, also found that the 2012 standards were fully protective of human health, but then nonetheless imposed additional mercury-related standards.
Mr. Dewey, how long will it take for families to see cost savings of this?
Well, it's critical that families start seeing affordability right away. And so what we're doing at EPA and what we're doing across the administration is a multi-pronged, multi-front effort to support reductions in the cost of living that have gone up far too quickly over the last administration. And reliable, affordable energy is a key part of that. This rule is one step in that direction. There are many other steps that we are taking, and we're confident that at the end of that process, there will be achievable and affordable energy for Americans.
Deputy Administrator, follow up on the cost savings. The cost savings estimate that you quoted, it's hypothetical, correct? In the sense of if this rule were to remain in place, they would have to put in, X, Y, and Z, strengthen environmental compliance. I mean, Kentucky ratepayers are paying on their environmental surcharge for environmental compliance for the Obama Hearing Act rule, correct?
I think you could ask the folks at this facility how hypothetical the costs of this rule would have been. These were real costs that would have been imposed over and above the technology costs that were already imposed and in effect under the 2012 rule reaffirmed in 2020. So of course we're projecting into the future. So in some sense, that is a projection, but that projection is based on real-world costs and estimates of what that technology would have imposed on facilities across the country, what the needless obligations would have been for those facilities that would have been passed on to ratepayers. So it is a projection into the future, but it's very well-grounded. And frankly, if you look at the 2024 rule, it was actually projecting even higher costs than what we are saying we are saving from this rule, because we are being as realistic as we can be. So the Biden administration was not hiding the cards on this one. They were very clear that their rule imposed hundreds of millions of dollars of costs and brought forward benefits that were less than half of what the costs would be.
Sir, is there an approximation of how much money this individual plant would save by repealing this or going back to 2020?
I don't have that information at hand, but if you may be able to follow up after with the folks at the facility on that.
Where's the coal come from in Burn there? That might be a question.
It comes from Kentucky, southern Indiana.
Mr. Bell, does LG&E foresee building another coal unit at any point in the future?
Currently, as Deputy Administrator Zeldin referred to, we are building gas currently. We don't have any plans written, a clear regulatory path to constructing new coal as it stands. I know the new administration continues to look at those issues. So we don't have any plans currently. If you're aware, our current plans, we're actively constructing a gas combined cycle unit on this site as we speak, and we have 2 more approved by our regulator. And that's the extent of our plans as we stand today.
And we have time for one more question.
Mr. Dewey, is there any update that the EPA can provide on RFG requirements in the local area?
I don't have an update for you today. It's an issue that we're actively working on, and we know it's critical to this area. So I don't have an update for you today, but it is at front of mind. All right. Well, thank you all very much for being here.
sir. How are you doing? Good to see you. I'm doing well.
I'll come set up over here real quick.
Thank you very much. Look at the red.
See if they're still here.
Are we going that way for more?
I think so. Yeah, they want us in the corner. Anyone have a light?
Pretty she's okay. Listen, if you were like, yeah, I would like let you like slap me off.
He's got one.
Yeah, that's anytime I have the outside of
I guess get up, son.
Or you guys.
I have a top line back here.
Because that light, we're gonna put him right here.
Let's do that. Could you get her in touch with back? Give her in touch with back.
Absolutely. You're gonna be sitting right here.
How are you all?
Easier to interrupt.
Do you want to go to France? Are you okay? I'm not stalking you.
Well, thank you for covering this event. What's your name? How are you all? Get out. Doing great. You ready? I'm good. I'm good.
Congressman, how much would you say you're a supporter of coal energy or natural gas combined cycle?
Well, as a member of the Congressional Coal Caucus and a member of Congress from Kentucky who has fought for 13 years against the Obama and Biden war on coal, today is a great day. We are thanking President Trump and Administrator Zeldin and Deputy Administrator Fatui for this very important announcement that will prevent premature retirements of our coal fleet, which is vital for both our economy, for affordability, bringing down the cost of living for the people of this country, for the reliability of our grid, and for powering the technologies of the future. As a member of the Select Committee on the Strategic Competition with China, I will tell you that the race for AI dominance is very, very critical, and we need firm, dispatchable baseload power if we're going to win the race for AI. And this is a great step forward to advancing American national security.
How big of an issue is this for Kentucky?
It's a huge issue. We need to put our coal miners back to work. For the last 16 years, Kentucky coal miners have lost their jobs. Kentuckians have seen their residential electric bills spike by over 60%. We have seen a decline in Kentucky's competitiveness because our industrial utility rates have gone up. Our ace in the hole in Kentucky, in terms of our economic competitiveness, is affordable, reliable power. And this is a terrific announcement. President Trump is the most pro-coal president we've seen in American history, and thank goodness for that, for Kentucky jobs, Kentucky wages, and, as I said, national security.
Congressman, what do you think the chances are of new coal-fired power units in Kentucky and across the country? I mean, coal currently only makes about 16% of power. Natural gas has been taking up more of the share of power. In Kentucky, you heard Monty Zeller mention there's no plans right now for Allegheny and KU to build new coal-fired units.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because I'm very focused on that as a policymaker advocating for Kentucky and Kentucky coal. The reason why LG&E is not looking at that is because of regulatory uncertainty. The risk that a future Democrat anti-fossil energy administration would reverse course and strand assets. And so I have introduced legislation, been working with the Trump administration on this, Secretary Lutnick, Secretary Burgum, Secretary Wright, and Administrator Zeldin, to introduce legislation called the Securing Reliable Energy for the Technologies of the Future Act. This would build upon a fund that we created in the One Big Beautiful Bill that would provide loan guarantees, basically political risk insurance for investment in new, not existing, but new coal-fired power plants. We have prematurely retired 290 coal plants in this country over the last 16 years because of the war on coal. And we've done so precisely at a time when AI energy demands are spiking. The People's Republic of China is investing in new coal plants every single day. And they're investing in inferior coal generation technology. We have the best coal generation technology, lower emissions technology, as the Deputy Administrator was saying. We need to be leading on coal, investing more in this level of technology, building new coal plants so that we can win the race for these technologies of the future, which require an immense amount of power that we don't have in this country right now. And what are these technologies of the future? Yes, artificial intelligence, which will require massive amounts of additional gigawatts of power in this country. Digital assets, quantum computing, all of these technologies of the future, where we are in a national security competition with the Chinese communists. We need more, not less coal power. We need more nuclear, not less. We need more energy in order to win this race and secure America's place as the world's global superpower.
How do you expect the average Kentuckian to benefit from this announcement?
Well, I think the average Kentuckian will benefit from this because this will mean more reliable grid. It will mean more affordable energy. And as the Deputy Administrator was pointing out, it's one of a series of policy changes that need to take place to, number one, end the war on coal, but also provide additional supply. When you talk about the affordability issues facing Americans today, the cost of living, if you want to bring down the cost of living, it's about supply. That's why we support cutting taxes, decreasing regulations, decreasing the cost of business, but energy goes into everything. If you think about manufacturing and producing more goods and services, We need more supply of reliable, firm, dispatchable power. That is what is going to lower the cost of everything for the average American family.
Congressman, there was a public meeting the other day in Mercer County about a data center potentially there. A lot of people are very upset about that. They're concerned about the use of power, about the use of water, about air pollution, about noise pollution. What do you do to address their concerns?
Yeah, so Mercer County is in my district. Believe me, I've heard about this as well. And local zoning issues and decisions about siting data centers, obviously, that's a non-federal issue. We should respect local communities to make decisions for themselves. But on a national scale, on a national level, we do need more data centers. We need more power. We need more affordable, reliable power to address the needs. And then let localities make decisions about whether or not they want to bring this in. The pros of bringing data centers into these communities is massively expanding the tax base. These hyperscalers and these data centers pay a lot in property taxes for schools, for roads, for local infrastructure, also construction jobs. The data center employment, there's some modest additional employment to run these data centers, but the construction jobs and the expanded tax base is very, very significant benefits to these communities. But then at the end of the day, each community will have to make a decision on their local zoning rules, et cetera, whether they want that or not. But in terms of overall, in terms of our national competitiveness, we need more of this, not less.
Do you have any reaction to the Supreme Court ruling from this morning on President Trump's tariffs?
Yeah, so I have not read the decision yet, but obviously from the standpoint of, I support the president's trade policies because you cannot deny the fact that this has lowered the deficit. These tariffs have lowered the deficit and have given this president the leverage to achieve more reciprocal trade deals, more market access for American exporters. And so from that standpoint, it is a setback. But I wouldn't overread, and I stress I haven't read the opinion yet, but I wouldn't overread the opinion as being a wholesale rebuke of this administration's policies. John Yoo, who is the former head of the Office of Legal Counsel in the Department of Justice in the Bush administration, an excellent constitutional law professor, has noted that the court in this decision has opened the door for the Trump administration to make country by country determinations for IEEPA backed tariffs. So it's not it's something that obviously the administration and the lawyers are going to look at in terms of what's next. One thing that I will say as a supporter of this administration is that there are a number of tools of economic statecraft available to this administration to continue the overall policy, including economic tools within the jurisdiction of my committee, the Financial Services Committee. And my commitment to the president is to give him whatever authorities he needs in the realm of sanctions policy to continue the progress and success that he has had in trying to negotiate better deals for this country.
Do you have any reaction to the Kentucky Supreme Court's decision yesterday on the school choice bill from 2022, ruling that unconstitutional?
Yeah, I have not seen that, so I can't comment on that, the state court decision. So I will tell you, I'm a strong supporter of school choice and was happy to support in the reconciliation bill a monumental victory for school choice that doesn't involve tax dollars, that would allow school choice vouchers funded through tax preferred, tax deductible private contributions.
You're supportive of that proposal, those accounts?
Oh, yes.
Contributions?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, and I voted for it and supported it. Yes, I did. Yeah. Anything else?
Congressman, the deputy administrator mentioned that the previous administration was picking winners and losers with energy policy. And you mentioned earlier that, in terms about lowering electricity rates, it's about supply. I wanted to ask specifically in reference to that, with concerns in previous months from, say, the renewable energy industry across the country that say that they've been burdened with bureaucratic processes from the Trump administration. They're delaying solar and wind energy projects. What's your view on that? Should there be a...
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think I got the thrust of your question. Thanks for the question. we need all of the above. We need more, not less of energy. I have nothing against renewable energy. I don't think this administration has anything against renewable energy, but it just simply does not provide our country with the baseload, firm, dispatchable power that we need to actually win the race for AI dominance. It just doesn't. Intermittent power supplied by these renewables is not going to cut it. We need the baseload power that can only be supplied from fossil energy or nuclear energy. And so what I would say is let the market operate. Don't put your, that's why I supported repealing some of these tax policies that distorted the marketplace, that discriminated against the most reliable sources of power and amplified some of the most speculative forms of unreliable power. What we need in this country for national security, for economic competitiveness, for affordable electricity, is we need the most reliable sources of energy, unfettered. And that's why I've not only supported getting rid of these distortions in the market and allow, and the deputy administrator is absolutely right. Picking winners and losers is not the way to go. What the power sources that should win the day are the ones that are the most reliable sources of power. And it's also why I've been a leader in the Congress opposing ESG investing. To finance power generation, there's a lot of capital that goes into that. And what we saw with ESG was a deliberate effort by the former Securities Exchange Commission under Gary Gensler to actively punish the financing of fossil energy. That was another dimension of the war against reliable power. And I'm glad to say that we're abandoning that. The Trump administration is abandoning ESG. And we're going to allow capital flows into the most reliable sources of power again.
All right, thanks, guys. Sorry.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you all. Okay.
I would give your arm a break. I was like, I know. That grind is too real.
Oh, okay.
Especially when somebody's doing so much like that. We got a shot.
Awesome, thank you. So thanks, guys. And I'm
All good. Listen, I appreciate you. Where are you guys going next?
Shelbyville, and then tomorrow we're in East Reach, Kentucky all day.